This is the Conductor Mark II from Ghost Note Audio. I shall explain exactly what it is, what it does, how it does it. I shall tell you why I bought it, how much I paid for it, and give you a couple of tips about using it, and also about using MIDI controllers in general, which you might find interesting. But first, I have to get it out of the box. So this is the package. I have made a start with my grandmother's scissors. These are not the grandmother's scissors, they are my grandmother's scissors. You can see they have a gap between them. These scissors are older than me, but I can't cut myself on the edges. I know people in America would like me to use a Stanley knife or some such. There we are, this is the box. Let's have a look and see what's inside. Finished with the scissors now. What's in here? That's it. No, must be more. Right, oh, do I need the scissors? No, this is, open that. Yes, there is a way in somewhere. So the packaging slides off the box. This is not designed for people with visual impairments, which I hope none of you have. Right, let's see if we can open this. There we go. Packaging, some instructions or something there. USB cable. I wonder if that will be long enough. A very useful adapter, because I believe this has USB-C, but it's not found on everything, and I have very few USB connections on my PC. And right, there's the box, and here is the gizmo. Do I need my grandmother's scissors to get into this? No, I don't think I do. It's just what's sticky, what's the seal? I don't know. There we are. Wow. Right. And there's the big long throw faders rubber base, which should keep it solid on just about anything. And I will use these probably for expression and volume. Right, let's put it together. Now that it's out of the box, let's plug it in and see what it does. Just to be absolutely clear about what it is, each fader produces a MIDI CC message, a MIDI continuous controller message, and you can use these to control a vast number of parameters on a synthesizer. I'm using it mainly on a soft synth, but you actually can use this with a hardware synthesizer as well. So MIDI CC messages, you can look them up on the web if you need more information about them. There are 128 of these. Not all of them are assigned to anything, but they are typically used to control modulation, pan, volume, expression, and so on. So this is the Conductor Mark II in my setup. Here's my computer keyboard, here is my mouse, and it is resting on the bevel mount of my monitor. And you can see the backing here. Now if I put it on flat, on a flat side, it is absolutely 100% stable. But even on the corners, it's resting on two bevels. Yeah, and this is sort of the most comfortable position for me. It's very little movement. This is absolutely fine for me. I'm very happy with that. So if we have a look at the controller, you can see it has 3 faders, of course, and just here, I don't know if you can see it, I'll zoom in on that a little bit. There's a little red LED indicator, and there's a button here. So if I press the button, hopefully you can see the indicator changing from red to green, and then to blue, and back to red again. So each of these 3 settings assigns a different set of controller numbers to the faders. We'll get into this in a moment. The default setting has controller number 1, which is modulation, set to the first slider. The second slider is controller number 11, which is expression, and the slider number 3 is controller number 7, which is volume. So I'll show you how these work in a second. So the only other thing to note is the USB-C connector on the back, and you can see it's well made. It's very solid. The only slight, it's a minor niggle. I sort of think it might have been better if this button was at the top next to the LED. But absolutely no marks off for that. Now, quite a while ago, I made a video review of Hans Zimmer's masterclass. And in that masterclass, there were a lot of little tips and hints if you kept your ears open for them. And I made subsequent videos discussing some of these. One of the things, which I have not made a video about, one of the things he mentioned was the expression within the note. And certainly for keyboard players, I think this is a subject which probably deserves its own video, so that may or may not be coming. But essentially, what he was talking about was once you generate a note on a piano or a keyboard, for example, then that is basically the note you get. If you play a note with a brass instrument or a wind instrument or a stringed instrument, then once the note has begun, you can alter the sound, alter the tone, alter the brightness, alter the volume, and so on. And that essentially is what you can do with MIDI expression. That's the hardware. Let's connect it to some software and see it in action. So this is Contact, and this is a legato trumpet patch from the Brass Ensemble sample library, which is part of the Native Instruments Komplete Kontrol bundle. So this is a big expression control knob in the middle, and if I move the modulation slider, you can see it is moving. So this is linked to continuous controller number 1 modulation. So if you use the mod wheel, which I shall do now on my instrument, on my synth keyboard, you can see that that is moving as well. Now, I'll have just a little bit something more to say about this when I give you another example. So I'm just holding down a note, and you can hear how this changes the dynamics of the note. So you can use this if you are playing a music line. To add some expression within the note. Let's look at another example. So this is another sample library. It is Spitfire's Albion 1. This is a string patch. Lovely sound. Now I shall wiggle the faders and you can see what happens in this instance. So volume number 7, as you can see, controls the main volume of the instrument. So this is the whole Contact instrument. It's the main instrument volume. And the middle slider controls expression, and these are helpfully labelled on the interface. So you can see that is moving expression. And the first slider, which is linked to modulation, controls the dynamics. So a clever player might use the dynamics and the expression together, but I'm just getting used to this, so let me just use the expression. So you can hear when the fader is down, the expression controls the volume as well. But as I increase the expression, I hope you can hear that the sound not only gets louder, but it sort of gets brighter as well. As if it's as if the strings are being played a little bit harder. So, but again, as in the previous example, you can use this to add expression within the note. Now, it may be subtle, it depends on how the instrument has been programmed. I've switched to a brass patch. I think you can hear this probably best on brass sounds, which get bigger and brighter with more harmonics the harder you blow into them. So let's give this one a try. Again, this is very subtle, but that's what instrumentation is all about. So you get a subtle increase in brightness. As you adjust the expression. And of course, as I said, a clever player would probably use the dynamics as well. Let's give this a try. That was terrible, but again, I hope you get the idea. Now, of course, I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm trying to play notes and manipulate the sliders at the same time. But of course, what you can do, you can play the notes in and then add the expression later on, just by recording the continuous controller messages after the main recording. So here's another brass one. I do like brass sounds, and this is a cine brass, and I think this is even more responsive to the controls. So let's have a listen. So you can definitely see, or you can definitely hear that that is more muted. And it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter, so that is well programmed. This is actually linked to the modulation control CC. So you can do that if you don't have faders, but you do have a mod wheel on your keyboard. And this slider controls the dynamics or the volume. And this slider controls the volume. This is 11 set to expression, but you can hear it doesn't really affect the tone, not as this one does. Terrible performance, but you get the idea, I'm sure. My main use for this at the moment anyway is to generate expression and dynamic MIDI CC data to give more expression to sample libraries, as I hope you have heard. But each of these faders can be programmed with whatever MIDI CC numbers you like, and you can do this on the web. So if you want to change any of the continuous controller numbers, you can do so easily. You come to this page, which is part of Ghost Note Audio's site, and you see you have red, green and blue tabs for each of the 3 states. And here you can set the MIDI channel, the continuous controller number, of course, which is probably going to be the most important. You can set the maximum and minimum values if you wish, and there are some other options here which are very useful. So you can set these up for each of the 3 different colours. So the system monitor down the bottom, this just lets you check that the faders are working, which is very useful. So in the advanced settings, you can set various threshold levels. I haven't felt the need to experiment with these, but they are there if you wish to experiment with them. Now, just one more thing, a little tip. You can see here that it says that the device is connected. Now, I had a problem because I was loading the page and it was saying the device was not connected. And I had no idea what was going on. I unplugged it and replugged it, restarted the browser, restarted the computer, all this sort of stuff. I had to reach out to technical support, who replied almost immediately. And the solution, which is very simple if you know what you're doing, but obviously I did not know what I was doing, check out this little icon. And if you click on that, then you get some options to allow the browser to access MIDI devices or not. And for some reason, mine was set to not, or something set it to not, because when I initially tried the device, it was working perfectly in this window. Somehow the setting had got set to not. Anyway, that is just something to bear in mind if you get this the message which says the device is not connected. So just a couple of other things about using this app online. It works in Chrome, as you've seen. It also works in Microsoft Edge, and it works in Firefox. Now, for Mac owners, if you use Safari, for some reason, Apple has not implemented this ability to access MIDI instruments on their web browser. Come on, Apple, what are you playing at? But it will work on a Mac, of course, musically, and if you want to do the editing, then at the moment at least you need to use one of the other browsers. So how much does it cost? Well, I paid 149 Great British pounds for it. Now this is the Mark II version, and it has many improvements over the Mark I version. I was aware of the Mark I version, but I thought I would wait until they produced Mark II. As it happens, they've actually reduced the price on the Mark II. Now this is produced by, I think it's a relatively small UK company. Boutique, I think is the word. So they are not mass produced. Now I'm in the UK and it did not cost me any more for postage. It says postage will be calculated at checkout, so if you are in another part of the world, it may cost you a few more pounds for that. Now, to be honest, I don't know if this is cheap or not. There is an absolute dearth of fader controllers like this. I much prefer faders for controlling this type of MIDI information rather than knobs. And personally, I consider it a good buy. Not, I have to say, that there is a lot of competition out there. But it has a lot of controllability and programmability. Now, one of the things you may have noticed in that example clip is that not all pieces of software seem to use the same MIDI CC numbers. The brass ensemble used CC1 modulation, as did the Cine brass. Spitfire's Albion 1 has separate little indicators for dynamics and expression. So you need to see it to check which CC numbers each instrument uses to affect expression and dynamics. Not difficult at all, but something to be aware of. So although MIDI CC messages do have suggested purposes, it's up to the programmer and the developer how they are actually allocated. I think many instruments may use CC1 modulation to control things like expression, simply because most keyboards have a mod wheel. So you do need to check. Another thing which you probably know, but I shall tell you anyway, is that a lot of these instruments have a MIDI Learn function. And this is very, very useful. If you right click on a parameter, then you get an option to teach it a MIDI CC message, which you do simply by moving a control, and that will learn the parameter which CC message is being used to control it. In this case, as you can see, it has already been set to CC1 modulation. So I hope you found this interesting, useful. Perhaps it has got you thinking about using MIDI CC messages to get more expression out of your sounds. If you use anything like this, do you use faders or knobs, and do you have a preference? Mine is definitely faders. If you have any questions about the Conductor Mk that you think I might be able to answer, leave them in the comments and I will reply as soon as I can. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you again in the next video.